Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're heading off to the Yorkshire moors in England,
Oh, the Moors.
for a deep dive into the Ilkley Moor Alien Photograph.
Ah, yes,
You know that one, right?
I do.
It's pretty famous. Well, at least in UFO circles, it's a big one. This grainy picture of a, figure on
Yes.
the landscape.
Yeah.
And so we've got a bunch of articles about it. We're going to take a look and try to suss out whether or not it's an actual alien visitor, a hoax, or maybe something else entirely.
I think what's so interesting about this case is, it's not just about the photo itself.
Right.
It's about the context. You have to think about the location, where it was taken, the
Mhm.
photographer's story,
Yeah.
the time period. It all kind of plays a role in how we see and interpret this image.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's set the stage a little bit. It's 1987. Okay, so back in the late 80s.
Okay.
And we've got this retired policeman named Philip Spencer.
Right.
He's out on Ilkley Moor with his camera. And just so people know, Ilkley Moor is it's not just any old patch of land. This
Oh.
place has got a lot of history and folklore
Oh, I bet.
associated with it. We're talking about ancient stone circles and burial mounds and all sorts of, tales of the supernatural.
I mean, it practically screams, unexplained phenomena.
Right. It's like a magnet for that kind of stuff.
Right. It's true. These sorts of places often attract stories of the unexplained.
Yeah.
But let's get back to Philip Spencer. So here he is. He takes this picture.
Yeah.
He's walking around. He develops the film. And it wasn't until then that this strange figure, appeared.
Hold on. So he didn't even see it when he was taking the picture.
He claims he didn't.
That's wild. So, I mean, is there like some invisible being walking around on the moors that only shows up in photographs? I mean, or was this a setup?
Well, I mean, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, some skeptics think that maybe he was seeking attention or trying to pull off a hoax of some kind. But there are actually, other people that say no. There are other cases where people have captured things in pictures that they didn't actually see with their own eyes at the time.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like our brains just kind of filter out stuff that we can't explain sometimes.
Like we block it out or something?
Yeah, maybe. It's a bit spooky when you think about it.
Yeah, it's pretty freaky. Okay, so let's get back to the picture, to the image itself.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen this thing,
Okay.
it's got this elongated head, it's got these really thin limbs, large black eyes.
Sound familiar?
Sound familiar, right? Like that classic gray alien look that you see in all the movies and the TV shows.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually one of the things that's really interesting to me is why is it that this particular image has become so ingrained in our minds when it comes to aliens?
Right.
Like where did that archetype even come from?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to think about like the cultural landscape at the time. This is, the Cold War era, a time when there was just a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. A lot of fear of the unknown.
Exactly. Everyone was looking up in the sky like, what's out there?
Yeah, they were ready for aliens.
And then this photo comes out, and it's like, it just confirmed everything that they were already,
Yeah.
thinking about.
They're primed for it.
Right.
And so it just fed into this whole, fear, this whole idea that we're not alone, right? That something's out there watching us.
Yeah.
And then the media, of course, went crazy. Can you imagine?
Oh, absolutely.
Like if this came out today, it would be all over the internet. But back then, it was the newspapers and the TV news,
And people didn't have Photoshop back then,
Right.
or any real way to, manipulate images like that on a wide scale.
Right.
So this photo was seen as, potentially more genuine.
Yeah, there's no way to debunk it easily.
Right.
So people are just like, well, I guess aliens are real.
Exactly.
So, it's a simple photograph, but it's got all this history and psychology and media hype wrapped up in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious, though, how did people even analyze this photo back then?
Well, I mean, they didn't have the fancy tools that we have today.
Yeah, what did they do?
No fancy software or anything. They had to, look at the negatives,
Right.
try to find any signs of tampering. They looked at the lighting, the shadows in the photograph.
Yeah.
They even compared the figure's proportions to known objects in the scene.
So they're doing some real detective work here.
Real detective work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm guessing it wasn't as easy as saying, yep, real, or nope, it's a fake.
Right. I bet there's a lot of gray area there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There were, experts weighing in on both sides.
Yeah.
Some were saying, well, there's some things about this that don't quite add up.
Like what kind of things?
Well, the figure's posture is weird.
Okay.
It's standing in a way that a human just wouldn't be able to.
Right.
And then the way the light hits it,
Mm.
it doesn't quite match the rest of the scene.
Hmm.
So they were thinking maybe it was added later.
Oh, interesting.
But on the other hand, the photo's really grainy. It's low resolution. So some experts said you can't really say for sure one way or the other.
Right. It's inconclusive.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So even back then, no easy answers. This is a real head scratcher.
It really is.
But that's kind of what makes it fun, right?
Absolutely. And that's what keeps it going all these years later.
Yeah, people are still talking about this thing. It's a mystery, for sure.
Definitely. But now I think it's time to dive a little deeper and look at what the skeptics have to say. Those who don't buy into this whole alien thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let's look at things from the skeptic's point of view for a minute.
Okay.
One of the main arguments against this photograph being real
Mm-hmm.
is that there are just some things that don't add up.
Like, what are we talking about?
Well, people point to the figure's posture. It's almost like it's standing in a way that a human, couldn't really stand.
Yeah, awkward.
Yeah, it's a little unnatural. And then the way the light's hitting it,
Okay.
some analysts think it just doesn't quite line up with the rest of the scene.
So they're talking about shadows and the angle of the light.
Exactly. And these days we've got all this fancy software that can analyze a picture and look for things like digital noise and whether it's messed with.
Right.
But back then they had to do it the old-fashioned way.
Okay.
They had to look at the negatives and use like a magnifying glass to look for signs of tampering.
It's like a real detective work.
Yeah, like a CSI episode almost.
Mm.
But I'm guessing even with all that, it wasn't a clear-cut answer.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, some experts were saying, well, we can't really find definitive proof that it's been manipulated.
Okay.
But the photo is so grainy and low resolution that you can't say for sure.
Right. It's just not enough information.
Yeah, it's like trying to do a puzzle with, like half the pieces are missing.
Right. But let's say for a minute that it was faked.
Yeah.
Who would even go to the trouble?
Well, some people think that maybe it was Philip Spencer himself.
Really?
Maybe he was looking for attention or trying to create some kind of sensation,
Yeah,
I mean, this picture did make him pretty famous.
that's true. It would be a pretty good story if you were a retired policeman, right? Like,
Right.
oh, I photographed an alien.
Exactly. Suddenly you're the center of this big international UFO story.
Yeah.
But of course, it's also possible that someone else faked it
Okay.
and either gave it to him or leaked it anonymously. Who knows?
Right.
It's really hard to say without more information.
So you've got the technical doubts about the photo itself.
Right.
And then you've got the human element, right? Like people's motives and things like that.
Exactly.
But there are people who look at this picture and they're like, yep, 100% that's an alien. What are they seeing?
Well, for some people, it really is a matter of faith almost.
Hmm.
They believe that extraterrestrial life exists.
Yeah.
And to them, this photo is proof.
Okay.
Other people point to the fact that Spencer actually passed lie detector tests.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he always maintained that he was telling the truth,
Okay.
that he saw, or rather his camera saw, something truly strange.
So they're putting their faith in him.
They're believing him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's also just the emotional side of things,
Yeah.
This photo, it taps into that part of us that wants to believe in the extraordinary, the unknown.
Right. Like we want to believe that we're not alone.
Exactly.
Mm.
That there's more out there than what we see in our everyday lives.
It's exciting to think about.
It is. It really makes you think about the possibilities, doesn't it?
Yeah. Speaking of unexplained things, wasn't there something else that happened on Ilkley Moor?
You're thinking of the UFO sighting a few years earlier?
Yes, that's right. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so in 1980, this is like 7 years before the photo, a group of hikers reported seeing a large triangular-shaped craft.
A triangular UFO?
Yeah, hovering over the moor.
Yeah.
It actually became one of the most well-documented UFO sightings in British history.
Wow.
So that definitely adds to the whole mystique of Ilkley Moor.
So this is multiple witnesses seeing this thing.
Oh, yeah.
And they all describe the same, this triangular shape.
Yeah, it's not just some, blurry light in the sky.
Right. It's not just a weather balloon.
No. This
Yeah.
is the real deal. And it happened before the photo, which, makes you wonder if maybe there's something about Ilkley Moor that attracts these strange events.
Right. Like, is there something about that place, some energy, or maybe even a portal to another dimension or something?
Who knows? I mean, people have always talked about certain places having special energy, right?
Yeah.
Like the Bermuda Triangle or Stonehenge. There's just something about them that draws people in.
Yeah.
And whether it's magnetic fields or ancient ley lines or something else entirely, it's fascinating to think about.
So we've got this spooky photo, we've got this triangular UFO, and we've got a moor that's steeped in folklore and mystery.
It's a recipe for the paranormal, isn't it?
It really is. So where does this leave us with the Ilkley Moor alien photo? Like, what's its legacy?
Well, even with all the debate, the controversy around it, it's
Yeah.
become this kind of iconic image in UFO circles. You see it everywhere.
Right.
Books, documentaries, websites, it's become part of how we visualize aliens.
So even if people don't believe it's real, it's still this powerful image that represents alien encounters.
Exactly. It's a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that there are still so many things out there that we don't understand, and it really gets to the heart of this big question that humans have always had.
Are we alone?
Exactly.
It's pretty amazing, right? Like, you've got this one photo from a place that most people have never even heard of,
Yeah.
and it's managed to capture our imaginations for decades.
I know. It really makes you think about what's out there.
Yeah, and even with all the analysis and all the debate, we still don't have a definitive answer.
Right.
We're left with this mystery and the possibility that something really extraordinary might have happened.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not always about, finding the answer. It's about exploring the unknown and weighing the evidence.
Absolutely.
And just coming to your own conclusions about what you think.
Exactly. So we've looked at Ilkley Moor and its history.
Yeah.
We've analyzed the photo from different angles,
Right.
heard from the skeptics and the believers.
Yeah.
So now it's really up to you listening to decide what you believe. Did Philip Spencer actually capture an alien on film?
Right.
Or was it all a clever hoax?
A very elaborate hoax.
It's your call. There's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah. But even if you're not entirely convinced that it's an alien,
Yeah.
you can't deny the impact that this picture has had.
Right? It's had a huge impact on our culture.
Yeah, it's become this symbol of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
This reminder that there are things out there that we don't understand.
Absolutely. And it's sparked so many conversations about alien life. Yeah.
What would it mean if we ever actually made contact?
Yeah, what would that be like?
You know what's wild?
What?
This was all before the internet,
It's true.
before social media.
I know. Imagine if this happened today.
Oh my gosh, it would be exploding.
Yeah, it'd be chaos. It would be everywhere.
Yeah, but even without all that, the photo's still here.
Yeah.
All these years later.
It's true. It stood the test of time.
Why do you think that is? What is it about this photo that's just so fascinating?
I think it's because it taps into something deep down inside of us.
Ah.
That desire to believe in something bigger than ourselves, something beyond our everyday experience.
It's like we want to believe that there's more out there
Yeah.
and that maybe we're not alone.
It's the same thing that draws us to ancient mysteries and unexplained events.
Yeah.
All those things that make us question what we think we know.
And even if we never find, definitive proof
Yeah.
that aliens exist,
Yeah.
the search itself is still important.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. It makes us think bigger.
Yeah, it pushes us to expand our understanding of the universe and where we fit into it all.
So keep your eyes open. Keep your mind open.
You never know what you might find out there.
Yeah, you might just stumble across the next big mystery.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe we'll meet again on another deep dive to explore it together.
That's right. Until then, keep searching for the truth.